Thanks for having me. In our last discussion, I previewed with you our path to AI sales transformation. And what I'd like to do today is take that a few clicks down and show you what that journey along that path looks like for an actual customer. So by the end of this meeting, my goal is that you'll know at least two things. So the first one is we have a defined structure to transform organizations with artificial intelligence. It's real, it's not just marketing speak. And number two, the transformation we're talking about impacts revenue. So we'll get into some data, but first, you'll remember we talked about a software evolution, how in the 80s and 90s, Goldmine and other organizations created systems of record, digitizing Rolodexes, and that was a big deal back in the day. And then Siebel and Salesforce, they brought systems of engagement where you could actually do stuff with those records. What Inside Sales is doing is pushing into that next phase of disruption with our AI system of growth to answer key sales questions like who to sell to and how to engage them. Our AI engine is powerful and unique for three specific reasons. It's made up of cross-company data. That data is global data, and it includes behavioral data with outcomes. Nobody else has this. And it's the lifeblood of that system of growth we talked about. And it enables this transformation. So when customers begin using our technology, they start on this journey with 4 phases. Phase 1 is they turn on the software. Phase 2, we apply a few core AI models and build buyer profiles. In Phase 3, we build seller profiles, and I'm going to explain each of these. But in Phase 4, we solve more complex sales problems with custom models. Now, a lot of our customers, they hover in that first phase, that productivity phase, which isn't bad at all, because what we're finding is that the improved productivity, improved visibility, improved rep effectiveness just from using our tools translates to about 10% lift in revenue. But more and more, they're shifting into these subsequent phases because of these exponential jumps in revenue once AI is applied to their business. So let's take a look at this example. We did an event study for one of our customers, a major telecommunications company, and their CMO asked us to open the black box, show the value of AI. That's what they were paying for. He wasn't as concerned about Phase 1, the productivity phase. His sights were on Phase 2 and the introduction of AI to his business. So check out this graph in the top right. The x-axis, this is obviously time. The y-axis is the total closed-won amount. That green dashed bar is a 3-month moving average, and the black jagged bar is the raw monthly snapshot. And what's interesting is that just with phases 1 and 2, they've seen an almost 30% lift in revenue. That's a 5x ROI. It's incredible. And these are their numbers. This is what they provided to us. They're currently transitioning into Phase 3. So what I'll cover with you is basically that sausage making of phases 1 and 2, and then give you an intro into phases 3 and 4 and what that looks like. So first, the reps. We build our apps for the users, and this is all they see. They have no clue what's going on behind the scenes, the data collection, the model optimization, the prioritization. They don't see any of that. So what is going on behind the scenes? What is it that they don't see? What you're viewing on this chart, these 4 separate charts, are all productivity stats. We deployed our software back in February. That's the productivity tool component. And once we turned it on, they saw this immediate jump in dials, in emails, in total tasks, and then it leveled off. And this is what you would expect by just turning on the tools themselves. But then in August and September, we deployed our next generation models. Now we have 2 core models that we deploy in this phase. The contactability model, which is about prioritizing leads based on their likelihood to engage. And then number 2, closability. If you engage with them, what's the likelihood that they'll actually buy? Now in these bin lift charts, we divided all their leads from their least valuable in bin 1 on the left to the most valuable, which is found in bin 10 on the right. And that AI recommended zone is found between bin 6 and 10. And what we found was that when reps take advantage of our models and call within those recommended bins, they have a 41% lift in contactability against the baseline. But what's even better is that when they engage with those within that recommended zone for closability, they have an almost 90% lift in the odds of closing a deal. Now, they were hovering around 30 dials a day before the models were deployed, but after the models were deployed, nothing changed. And you might wonder, well, that's odd. Shouldn't it shift somehow? But we were thrilled by this because the results that they were achieving, came without any additional effort. So when our data science are creating and training these models, there's kind of an art to it. There's art and science that we have to figure out which features, which variables will prove most predictive. So here's a snapshot of this customer's 2 models, those features that prove most predictive. Now, for each model, cross-company data is the secret sauce. And we'll take someone like John Doe and look at his title, his industry, his job function, and then layer in additional variables like weather, holidays, where they're calling from, etc. And we'll just see what leads to an accurate prediction. We'll do this in iterations until we get to something with a low margin of error. And a lot of these variables may seem common sense, but others are not. And this is why data science is so critical in sales, because data, unlike people, does not have a point of view. The way people do, we have biases. Data does not. All we care about is being accurate. Okay, so next we want to profile the buyers. In our analysis, we give clients some intuition into how our models think, and that's what we're doing here. So for this customer, we profiled buyers by industry and by geo, and then segmented those with a higher propensity to buy on the top there in green against those with a low propensity to buy on the bottom. Our customer's baseline close rate at the time was 4.5%, so just remember that. And the first thing you'll notice about this customer, if you look in the top left, that chart in the top left, this customer absolutely owns transportation. Their close rates are between 2x and 4x higher than their baseline win rate. They also, on the right-hand side, on the geo, they also apparently own major metropolitan areas. And the customer had no clue his business could be broken out by win rates, by buyers in this way. But once we showed it, it was intuitive. We also asked about where they're weak. And again, it made sense, but they had no idea before. And I'll give you a quick example. They clearly are not strong within agriculture. And so consequently, they don't perform well in those flyover states. And yet when you look at the numbers, they have almost 1,000 opportunities in those geos where they have basically 0% chance of closing. In agriculture specifically, there are 224 opportunities with zero, a resounding 0 closed-won deals. So if this were your business, what would you ask next? Our customer asked, where should we focus? Where should the focus be? And again, we turn to the data. This is a product analysis. To give you some context, their customers can buy packages of 1, 2, 3 to over 10 products. And we're looking at product mix by segment. Now, they've got some big companies in there, as well as some smaller ones that perform well. But there are also some big and small companies that don't perform well. So contrary to their initial belief, company size wasn't the primary factor. It might be factored in, but it's not the primary factor to determine where to focus. The real nugget we discovered was this product mix. It was a highly predictive indicator of success. So think about it. The more their customers invest in them, the broader and more diverse their product mix, the more likely they are to go even deeper, to expand even more. And it makes sense, right? But our client had no idea until they saw this analysis. So now up to this point, we're impacting revenue. We're talking about product mix strategy. We're talking about industry focus. Why stop, right? So we dug a little bit deeper in the data. Now this heat map shows the incremental value per dial. I've indicated the AI recommended zone here as well in the bottom. Look at the value of calls in that highest recommended zone. The first call is worth to this company $10. The next call almost $11. The next one after that almost 11.5. On the other hand, for scores landing between 0 and 50%, they are literally losing money on every single call. And we validated this after we calculated the cost per call with them. So they didn't know any of this. And what we'll do next, we'll look at this through a slightly different lens. This is pretty cool. So the last slide, the heat map, was justification to use the AI leads, right? The AI recommended leads. This chart shows what they're actually doing today. This represents dial penetration for each decile. The best decile, number 10 on the top there, has barely a 40% penetration rate. And there's also something else going on here. A ton of calories are being burnt. Maybe you notice this. A ton of calories being burnt on accounts that will never close. So look at those deciles 1 through 5. So we've started to answer the question, what should they be doing? And here are a few takeaways. So on the scorecard, the impact from just the software, just the productivity tool itself, up to the point that the models were deployed, so just prior to that, is all captured in that last column on the right. The second to last column is the impact of the models themselves. So a few interesting takeaways, a few interesting points to note. Right in the middle, just turning on the models, they saw a 61% improvement in production. So you see pipeline value there. Scroll over that blue bar, you see 61%. Why is that? Well, we know who the buyers are. We've gone through that exercise. Just above that, their sales cycle actually declined by 22%. So they're closing deals faster just by flipping a switch. And the last thing I want to point out is that third row from the bottom, sales per rep also jumped 10% with the productivity tool. But then when the models were deployed, sales per rep jumped almost 60%. All of this is real money. This is real money generated in a relatively short period of time. And what's even more impressive about that, if that wasn't impressive enough, is that while all this is going on, they lost 17.5% of their sales force, and they didn't backfill. So they were working smarter, not necessarily harder. So another question that came up in the course of this conversation with our telecommunications customer was, how should I balance my team? We looked at their accounts to sell. There are 420,000 accounts in their portfolio that they can sell to, and 78,000 in the top deciles were never called, are never called. So in terms of balancing teams, should they scale the team back? Should they hire more? How can this data help? Well, those 78,000 accounts represent about $8.3 million just sitting on the table. Even if you apply their existing conversion rates, win rates, dial rates, it's over $8 million hanging out there. And as a point of reference, the team that uses our tool today within this client shop was generating about $8 million in total revenue annually. So if they just call on these accounts, they could essentially double their revenue without spending more money. It's just team realignment. Okay, I think I've beaten the phase 2 horse to death. I want to briefly show you how we profile the sellers in phase 3, what we're working on with this customer. Using our technology, along with a subset of our customers' data, we create this cool data-driven view of their seller, segmenting their high performers, their low performers, and everything in between. The x-axis is the rep's ability to generate pipeline. The y-axis is the rep's ability to close pipeline. Naturally, leaders do both very well. The key for us is taking that middle hump and shifting it, getting teams from the center and below to the top right, or out in some cases. Now, another layer of insight that supplements this segmentation is an in-depth analysis that we perform of the attributes that separate one group from the next. So we can capture the signs of success and the signs of failure, which allows you to have a much richer coaching and development environment. So this is great, but what else is there? What else can we do? What other sales questions do customers want us to help them answer? We do get to a point where more complex questions require more complex custom models. Now, the workflow itself is not dramatically different, but the one key thing different about Predictive Cloud and custom AI is there are no data restrictions. It's the mix of CRM and non-CRM data sources. So we're looking at everything from SAP, Oracle, Zendesk, you name it, to answer those questions that require a lot more data, like who's going to attrit? Who can we target for upsell? Who can we target for cross-sell? So if you're the kind of organization that's just looking for a tool to buy, if you just want software, yeah, there are a lot of vendors that do just that. Our game is a little different. It's sales transformations. Okay, we help you sell more by taking you through a well-defined journey with AI.